SIL wrecked my wedding after I refused babysitting for free. So, I got revenge by revealing her affair. I'm 25. I never thought I'd be the one to break up a marriage. Life has a way of surprising you like that. Looking back now, I can trace the exact path that led us here, each decision and moment that brought our family to the breaking point. It started 2 years ago when I first moved in with Tom. I remember meeting his family at Christmas, the way they welcomed me with open arms. His mother made her famous apple pie, his father told embarrassing stories about Tom's childhood, and his sister Sarah. Well, Sarah was different back then. She was 7 months pregnant, practically glowing despite her obvious exhaustion. "I'm so glad Tom finally found someone," she told me that night, both of us curled up on the couch while the others cleaned up after dinner. "He needs someone practical in his life. Someone who gets family." I smiled, touched by her warmth. "I'm just happy to be here. You all make me feel so welcome." "Well, get used to it," she laughed, rubbing her swollen belly. "Once this little one arrives, we're going to need all hands on deck. Hope you're ready for some serious auntie duties." And I was. When the baby came, we all pitched in. Tom and I would take the night shift in their guest room, his mom would come during the day, and we made sure Sarah and her husband, Matt, got the breaks they desperately needed. "You're a lifesaver," Sarah would say, practically crying with gratitude as I'd shoo her off to bed. "I don't know what we'd do without you." "It's what family does," I'd always reply, meaning every word. Those early days were exhausting but beautiful. I'd rock the baby while Sarah caught up on sleep, and we'd talk for hours during late-night feedings. She confided in me about her fears, her hopes, her struggles with the changes in her body. I felt like I'd gained not just a sister-in-law, but a true friend. Then came my promotion. "I'm leading the whole development team now," I told Sarah over coffee one morning. "It's exciting, but the hours are intense." She nodded, only half listening as she bounced her 6-month-old on her knee. "That's great. Hey, speaking of which, can you watch him tomorrow? I have a hair appointment at 2. "Tomorrow?" I frowned. "Sarah, I can't just leave work without notice anymore. The company had some issues last year with missed deadlines, and now—" "Oh, come on," she cut in, rolling her eyes. "It's just one afternoon. You used to help all the time. Things are different now. I'm responsible for an entire team. If I'm not there to oversee submissions." "So your job is more important than family?" Her voice had taken on that sharp edge I'd come to recognize as danger. "More important than your nephew?" I took a deep breath. "That's not fair. I'm happy to help when I can give proper notice. But I can't risk my career for last-minute babysitting. They'll dock my pay if—" "Oh, it's about money?" Sarah's laugh was harsh.
"Fine.
"How much do you want?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. "If you're that desperate, sure. Pay me and I'll do it." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's face went through a series of emotions: shock, hurt, anger, before settling on something cold and hard. "Wow," she whispered. "So this is who you really are. A gold digger who only cares about money. And here I thought you were family." Something in me snapped. "You know what? Now I definitely won't babysit unless you pay me. Figure something else out." I grabbed my purse and left, her voice following me out the door. "You'll regret this. Family is supposed to help family." Those words would come back to haunt me months later, as I stood in my ruined backyard the day before my wedding. The wedding preparations had been a labor of love. Tom and I wanted something intimate, meaningful. We spent weeks creating the perfect setting in our backyard, a grassy aisle lined with pre-potted flowers, leading to a romantic canopy. With only 20 guests invited, it would be perfect. We'd invited Sarah, of course. Despite our falling out over the babysitting incident, she was still Tom's sister. I thought we could move past it. I was wrong. The next day, I came home early from my final dress fitting to find our paradise destroyed. The carefully maintained grass was torn up by what was clearly a lawnmower, and random holes dotted the yard like craters on the moon. Our perfect aisle was gone, replaced by chaos. Sarah stood in the middle of it all, wearing an expression of fake concern that made my blood boil. "Oh no," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Your dog must have done this." What terrible timing. My hands shook as I surveyed the damage. "My dog is trained not to dig," I said through clenched teeth, "and those are clearly spade marks." "What have you done?" A smirk played at the corners of her mouth. "Believe what you want, but your wedding is tomorrow, and now you have nowhere to hold it. Karma's a witch, isn't it? Get out," I whispered, then louder. "Get out of my house." She left, but the damage was done. When Tom arrived home, he stood in stunned silence, taking in the destruction. "We'll have to postpone," he finally said, pulling me close as I cried. "There's no way we can fix this in time." That's when I knew I had to tell. The secret I'd been keeping for months, the one that could destroy her marriage. It had started during those early baby days, when Sarah was struggling with postpartum depression. "I don't feel like myself anymore," she'd confided one night, tears streaming down her face. "Matt doesn't look at me the same way. Everything's different." I suggested she join a gym, get her confidence back. Tom, Matt, and I even took turns watching the baby, so she could go. That's when things started changing. The first time I saw her with him, the gym guy, I was dropping off some baby clothes she'd left at her house. He pulled up in a sleek black car, and they kissed goodbye. When she saw me, her face went white. "It's not what you think," she'd pleaded. He kissed me. I pushed him away. "Please don't tell Matt." It meant nothing. It won't happen again. I believed her, wanted to believe her. But then I saw them again weeks later, outside the grocery store. This time, there was no pushing away, no reluctance. When I confronted her, she broke down. "I lost my mind for a moment," she'd said. "Please, just one more chance. I'll break it off. Matt can never know. It would destroy him." I'd kept her secret, watched her lies stack up like playing cards, waiting for the slightest breeze to knock them down. Now, looking at our ruined backyard, I decided to be that breeze. I called Matt that night. "There's something you need to know," I said, my heart pounding. Something about Sarah. The fallout was nuclear. Matt moved out that same night, filing for divorce immediately. He refused couples counseling, refused to even discuss reconciliation. "I don't need a cheating wife," he said, his voice flat. I trusted her. We had a family, and she threw it all away. 5 months later, they had a custody arrangement. Sarah had weekdays, Matt had weekends, and their child was caught in the middle of it all. "You've ruined everything," Sarah accused me during a chance encounter at the grocery store. "Are you happy now?" "You ruined my wedding," I shot back. "Actions have consequences, Sarah. It's time you learned that." But the consequences rippled further than I'd anticipated. 3 weeks into my marriage with Tom, we eventually had a small ceremony at a local garden. We were already fighting about it. "You weaponized something sensitive," he argued during our latest fight. "You could have found another way." She destroyed our wedding venue. I protested. What was I supposed to do? Let her get away with it? "Not everything needs revenge," he said quietly. "Sometimes being the bigger person means walking away." She needed to learn. "Learn what?" he interrupted. "That her actions have consequences? Look around. A marriage is destroyed, a child is suffering, and our own relationship is strained. Was it worth it?" I didn't have an answer for that. Still don't really. The family is divided now. Tom's mother hasn't spoken to me in weeks. His father tries to stay neutral, but I can see the disappointment in his eyes. Some say I went too far, others say Sarah had it coming. All I know is that actions ripple outward, affecting more people than we initially intend. Sarah learned that lesson through her divorce, and I'm learning it through the strain on my new marriage. Last night, as Tom and I lay in bed, the weight of everything hanging between us, he asked, "Do you regret it?" I thought about it carefully before answering. I regret that it had to come to this. I regret that a child is caught in the middle. But I don't regret standing up for myself. Sometimes the truth has to come out, even if the timing isn't perfect. He was quiet for a long moment before responding. Just promise me something.
What?
Promise me we'll always be honest with each other. No secrets, no revenge plots. Just truth. I reached for his hand in the darkness. I promise.
And I meant it.
Because if this whole mess has taught me anything, it's that secrets and revenge might feel good in the moment, but they leave scars that take years to heal. Some of them never do. Sarah and I passed each other at the supermarket yesterday. She was with her son, who's growing so fast I barely recognized him. Our eyes met briefly before we both looked away, pretending not to see each other. In that moment, I saw the weight of everything we'd lost, the friendship we'd had, the family we'd been, the trust we'd broken. "Mommy, who's that?" I heard her son ask as they turned down another aisle. "Nobody, sweetheart," Sarah replied, her voice carrying clearly. "Nobody important." And maybe that's the real tragedy of it all. How quickly family can become nobody. How easily love can turn to hate. How one secret, one act of revenge, can unravel years of relationships. Tom and I are working on our marriage. It's not easy, trust never is, but we're trying. Sarah and Matt's divorce was finalized last month. He's dating someone new already. She's thrown herself into single motherhood with a determination that would be admirable under different circumstances. And me? I'm learning to live with my choices. To accept that sometimes there are no clear winners in family conflicts, only degrees of loss. But I'm also learning that maybe, just maybe, the truth isn't always worth the price we pay to reveal it. The wedding photos from our rescheduled ceremony sit on our mantle, a reminder of how we eventually got our happy ending, albeit not the one we planned. Sometimes I catch Tom looking at them with a sad smile, and I know he's thinking about his sister, about the family we used to be. We'll be okay, I tell him in those moments, and I hope it's true. Because in the end, that's all any of us can do. Hope that the choices we make, right or wrong, lead us somewhere worth going. And pray that the bridges we burn weren't the ones we needed to cross back over.